Demisexuality is far more common than most people realize. Oftentimes when people hear demisexuality explained, they like almost personally identify with it. They're like, wait a minute, but me too though. Wait, that there's a word for this? Like,
yeah. Wait, everyone doesn't feel this way?
God. Like, I'm also polyamorous, and I remember the first time that somebody used the word polyamory, and I'm like, wait a minute, say that again?
Hold up.
There's a word for this? You mean I'm not just casually dating both of my best friends at the same time, and that there's actually like a real like community here that exists? What? Like, it's pretty cool stuff.
I remember the first time I heard the word.
As a society, we have failed to educate people about sex, right? It seems like a problem. It seems like a problem.
It is.
I used the word compersion the other day, and not word. Isn't it an amazing word? When I heard that, I was like, I didn't know that was a word. And I used it the other day just in a random conversation. And there were several people who caught up on like, are you poly? Because only poly people know that word exists.
And people who watch this show, because the word compersion, of course, being,
oh, put me on the spot. Nice. Compersion is basically described as the opposite of jealousy. So instead of seeing a partner or somebody that you love very much experiencing something without you that they are finding a lot of joy in and feeling icky about it, you would instead feel joy for them and get pleasure from seeing your partner happy in a situation that doesn't necessarily involve you. And to me, the fact that for a while, I didn't think I was capable of that feeling. I was like, that seems foreign and strange to me, and I don't get it, but it's a muscle you got to exercise, and it's a really nice feel. It's a good feel.
Just that idea of I'm happy, you're happy. The fact that you're happy is beautiful, and it fills me with joy. You know, we might be a little bit behind on this as well, but I should take this opportunity to just explain demisexuality. You know, we talked around the edges of it, but for folks at home, demisexuality is this idea that while you may be attracted to people sexually, you're not necessarily asexual or aromantic, that perhaps you take a little bit longer to warm up to the idea, that you need to get to know somebody a little bit more. Maybe the opposite of somebody who's looking for a one-night stand or that instant sexual connection. You're wanting to understand somebody a little bit more on a personal or on a human level before engaging with them on a sexual level. Does that line up with y'all's experience, with y'all's terminology?
Pretty much. I'd say the only difference is that, or the only clarification there would be, that doesn't necessarily mean you wouldn't enjoy a one-night stand or that casual sex is off the table. Just that if you had a preference in relationship forms, it would be, oh, I know this person. I've connected with them on an emotional level, and that just makes the sex better.
I can agree wholeheartedly with that. I oftentimes think of a demisexuality as before I can commit to these feelings of attraction, I would like to find out a little bit more about you first, please, and not just look at a collection of bits and pieces and facial features and make a snap judgment as to whether this person is or is not attractive. Another very funny way of looking at this is, would your attraction to somebody change based off of their political affiliation? If somebody's political party is going to affect your attraction, you know, you might be interested in more qualities than just the physical, and it might be worth exploring that about yourself. I use politics as the example, as most people are like, oh, I could never sleep with somebody who's a insert political party here.
Right.
I don't even prescribe to a political party. I'm very, let's actually look at who people are.
So would that be demi-political?
Demi-political, yes. Demi-political.
Boo. We're moving on.
Okay. All right.
I do appreciate the sex terminology 101 lesson, though. As we've said, it's sorely lacking.
For sure. So this last segment here, we've got a couple more callers that we are going to take before the end of the show, so don't go away. But I do want to make sure we get down to some of these more practical tips and tricks, because if you read Alice's blog, and the articles that she puts out, they're actually very informative, and they tie in a lot of psychology and science and biology and all of these different things to give you some really awesome, like, practical tips, either for yourself or with a partner, or if you are hiring an escort. So let's dive in to this first. And one article, I'm going to skip around a little bit here because we are a little short on time. One article that got me interested in particular is the benefits of bottoming. And specifically the section on, I think it's called, excuse me while I read off my script here, transient hypofrontality. And you called it Subspace, the Final Frontier, which made me very excited to talk to you because, hello, fellow nerd.
I am a nerd.
But can you go into the benefits of bottoming a little bit, maybe especially talking to people who wouldn't normally see themselves as bottoms, or maybe societally have been told they can't be without sacrificing some core element of their gender?
Everybody can be a bottom. Let's just dispel that myth and throw it in the trash can. Every single body has the capacity to be a bottom without foregoing who they fundamentally are. It doesn't matter if you are a man. It doesn't matter if you are the CEO of a company. It doesn't matter if you are rich. It does not matter what you dress like or look like or what you are in your standard life. Your sexual self is an opportunity for exploration, and to not take advantage of it is such a shame. To step into the role of a bottom or the receiver of whatever the kink activity is that's so happening allows you to receive sensory information that you otherwise wouldn't normally get exposed to. What does it feel like to have a paddle impact across your bottom or the fall of leather over your shoulders? What does it feel like emotionally for you to kneel at somebody's feet? How does it feel for you to receive orders or commands from another person and be expected to promptly respond to that? Does that feel good? Does that turn you on? What sorts of things are you experiencing? First and foremost, it's absolutely a learning opportunity. I guarantee you will grow as a person for having that experience. And then sexually, you have the possibility to learn so much about different things that you're going to enjoy. Think about it. Even just the simplest sensations, such as maybe scratching or biting that you otherwise never had an opportunity to experience, may make their way into like part of your bedroom fundamentals. And all of a sudden you learn something new about yourself that you're actually kind of into a little bit of breath play or a little bit of hair pulling. I don't know. It's so hard to put into like one short, concise phrase as to why you should try and be a bottom other than, yes, do it. Ask questions like, yes.
I'd imagine. Go ahead, Christy.
Just to say, you're also building out your experience as a top. You know, you're having walked through those experiences, you know what you're crafting. You're a chef who actually eats their own food. You know, if you are not having these kinds of experiences, you're not going to be able to craft them in the same ways. I think that everybody, as you said, no matter how you self-describe, whether you think of yourself as a top or as a dom or whatever other terms fit into your sexuality, there's a lot to be explored and understood.
Before you should ever pick up a toy and use it on somebody else, you should probably use it on yourself and have a good idea as to what that's going to feel like. How heavy is that flogger? How thick is that leather on impact? Is it too intense? Is this something that's maybe softer and a better warm-up tool? Well, if you're too afraid to use it on yourself or have it used on you, you're going to be lacking on so much information that's really going to benefit you. I'm really glad that you brought that up because there's this misconception that I am the most domly of dominants and I shall never bow before anybody. And it's like, buddy, I don't care how domly you are. If you have a brand new whip, you got to break it in first before you use it on somebody. And you should probably have gotten whipped at least once in your life before deigning to do the same to another person.
It continues to put some boundaries on these things, right? Because we're talking about play. Sex is just silliness, and we can dress it up, and you can have deep, dark, scary, dungeon, sexy sex, and that's great. You can be a domly dom, but if that's your entire identity, if your identity is so wrapped up in that and so fragile that you can't even conceive of yourself as being in a bottom situation, I don't know how much I really want to trust you to dom me.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And it almost speaks to a deeper emotional vulnerability that you're not willing to. Why? What's going on that you're not willing to explore that side of yourself? Is there something there that you're concerned and afraid of encountering? Because I actually think it would probably be very therapeutic and helpful and beneficial for you to go to those places that you probably aren't super thrilled about going to. And I definitely think everybody should have fun on both sides of the slash, not just top or bottom. Why not both? Then again, I'm a switch, so I mean, I'm like I've never decided on anything in my entire life. Like, I am polyamorous, I am pansexual, I'm a switch. Like, don't ask me to make decisions here, okay? My answer is going to be yes.
Yes.
I love it. Also, I'm officially co-opting domly into my vocabulary. That is now
Absolutely should. Domly dom is one of my favorite phrases. And like, you say that and you can almost see the person, they've got their held back a little bit too high. They absolutely are wearing a leather mercap and a very serious looking leather vest. Like, 100% without a doubt.
Yeah.
Like,
I'm glad we went to this space, because that was the topic I was also going to bring up, is the experience of being on either side really is helpful when embodying the opposite, right? Whether that is a sub or a dom, if you have done the other thing, you know what you like, you know what feels really good and what doesn't, and then you can have that vocabulary to communicate. You might not even think about whether or not a flogger is too thick or too intense until you experience that, and then you're like, oh, this is a consideration, I need to ask about this. But another thing is aftercare, and this is such, I found that until I started dating and talking with people who were in the poly scene, people in the kink scene, this word was not used. Even if BDSM was flirted with and played with unofficially in the bedroom, aftercare was not a term. That wasn't an expectation. To expect it was to be clingy or needy. And I was so excited when I heard people actually using this phrase and talking about it as the important thing that it is. So can you talk a little bit about aftercare and what that is and why it's important?
Yes, I think aftercare is essential and non-optional. Aftercare is the both physical and mental unpacking of the experience that you just had. Physically, this looks like addressing the immediate needs. Do you need a snack? Is your blood sugar low? Do you need some water? Are you thirsty? Do you need a towel because you've just experienced adrenaline and you want to bundle yourself up under a nice warm blanket? Are you looking for physical presence? Was this an emotionally difficult scene that we just had? Do you want me to sit here and talk to you through this experience? Would you like some words of love, or would you simply like that physical presence? What kinds of things does somebody need to fully process through that experience in its totality? Because our experience doesn't just end the second that the flogger gets put down. Our nervous system has been ramped up and heightened, played with, flirted with, brought through this whole cascade of emotions, and it doesn't just all of a sudden end like a record that we just pick it up and put it back on the shelf. Like, there's a process that we go through in which we have to actually go through and unpack everything that happened, so this way we can then move forward on to that next great experience that we want to have. And of course, it's not limited to just the very moment after sex. Aftercare looks like the entire totality. So if this is an experience that left marks, bruises, in the case of any sort of play with sharps, such as scalpels or needles, you've got to follow the aftercare process through until that person is fully healed. All the marks are faded. We don't have to worry about any sort of infection, in any sort of injury. Like, you have to go through the whole thing. It is a commitment.
Yeah, well, and you called it non-optional, which highlights, I think, one of the biggest misconceptions, or one of the most important pieces of advice in this space that I'm always trying to push, which is just that even if you don't necessarily feel that it's necessary, maybe the scene wasn't as intense as you anticipated, or maybe your partner is saying, like, it's fine, like, I'm good. even if you are good, this is not necessarily just about like bandaging wounds, whether we're talking physically or psychologically. This is about establishing a routine and a pattern. Because even if your experience wasn't overwhelming, by taking an opportunity in a moment afterwards to go through the motions, to actually do those steps, whether they feel necessary or not, whether they resonate with you or feel important or not, by actually having those kinds of intimate conversations and that reconnection and that soothing experience, you're setting yourself up not just to heal from this past moment, but to be ready for the next one. To know on a nervous system level that next time you get beat up, that there's going to be an ice pack and a shoulder to cry on or whatever else. You're setting yourself up in really important ways. So I encourage people, even if you are just trying something out, even if it doesn't feel like it's that big of a deal, to at least provide some space for that kind of aftercare, not for today, but for tomorrow.
Yes. It's like toy cleaner. You clean your toys before you use them. You clean your toys after you use them, regardless if they look dirty or not. You still go ahead and go through the process. It's part of it, package and parcel. And aftercare is the same way with any sort of emotionally charged activity in the bedroom. There should be aftercare. It doesn't even have to be kinky. If there's been an emotional peak, if there's something that happened that is taking you out of your standard sex routine, take a moment to honor that and acknowledge the fact that your needs are probably going to be different than what your needs are after every other time you have sex, because something here is different.
Right. Again, communication is so important, and being able to say, hey, I know we didn't do anything out of the ordinary tonight, but I'm feeling a little emotionally raw. Can we talk about it? Or can you just hold me for a little while? I think that's so important.